this snub's for you.
Welcome back to another edition of Dave Smith Unleashed, and make sure to follow us on Twitter, on my Twitter account, @DaveSportsGod, and we're always talking about when the next show is going to be, who the guest is going to be, what time of day, but even more important, follow us on the YouTube page, @The Dave Smith Unleashed Podcast, @The Dave Smith Unleashed Podcast, and I love it when you like, comment, and subscribe, and I love kicking around with you on the comment section as well and going back and forth with all the subscribers. Recently, a couple of shows ago, I talked about Bill Belichick, the injustice of him not getting into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. And I heard all the excuses from these voters and all the nonsense and all the bullshit about why he didn't get in. And we all know what the reason is. Jealousy, Spygate, Deflategate, and the fact that he went to he went to 9 Super Bowls, won 6, and he's been to 11 if you count the 2 as the defensive coordinator with the Giants. I think they were just tired of getting their ass kicked all those years. And let's face it, Belichick is kind of an a-hole. He's not a likable guy. He's not a popular guy. And they were tired of getting their ass kicked all those years. And I think this is a little bit of revenge. And they can use Spygate as an excuse. And we all know that was nonsense. And Deflategate scientifically has been completely debunked. That never happened. And even if it did happen, explain. Remember, they caught the deflated footballs in the first half of that AFC Championship game against I think it was the Colts. Dave Smith Unleashed brought to you by MTS Transportations. And mention the Dave Smith Unleashed podcast and get 20% off on your next shipment for all your shipping, trucking, and freight needs. There's only one business to call, and that's MTS Transportations at 800-640-6873. MTS Transportations, 800-640-6873. And in the second half, Tom Brady played about the best half he's ever played in the playoffs with inflated football. So how do you explain that? That he was cheating. He played better in the second half. And let's not forget the Super Bowl that happened a couple of weeks later against Seattle. 2 separate 80-yard drives in the fourth quarter, led by Tom Brady with the inflated footballs, as the Patriots won yet another Super Bowl. And then they did a scientific study, and it's complete nonsense that a deflated football had anything to do with their success. So that was debunked. The Spygate thing, who cares? Everybody films the coaches. Everybody films the other sideline. Everybody tries to steal signals. And if they're successful at it, like I've always said, in my opinion, that's on you. Like I said with the Houston Astros thing and everything else. If you're not changing up your signals quarter to quarter, half to half, game to game, and you're allowing yourself to be filmed and having signals stolen, no matter what the sport, it's your fault. You have to assume everybody's cheating. Everybody's trying to steal signals. It's a time-honored tradition. But let's get to the latest injustice here. Bob Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, was just denied getting into the Hall of Fame. He was a finalist here in 2026 and didn't get in. Now, they have a minimum and a maximum number of inductees every year, which I think has to change. Some years you have light, some years you have heavy. It depends on the class and how strong it is. Why would you have a minimum and a maximum every year? And he didn't get enough votes from the 50-person selection committee. You need 40 to get in. And if nobody gets 40, then the top vote getter gets in. Now, let's go over his record here, shall we? Let's compare this to any other owner in the history of the National Football League. Since he bought the Patriots in 94, he has 6 Super Bowl wins. This year, the Patriots are in the Super Bowl again, so now 10 Super Bowl appearances. And name me another owner who can match that. In the Super Bowl again, and look how quickly they bounced back after Belichick and Brady left. They draft Drake May. How about the hire of Mike Vrabel as a coach? I would say the Belichick hire and the Vrabel hire were pretty good, wouldn't you? From owner Bob Kraft and drafting Drake May, who's in the Super Bowl. Not bad. Now, why wouldn't Bob Kraft get in? Now, I'm hearing all the excuses. Well, Belichick and Kraft split the vote this year, and there are other people more deserving, and he's an owner, he's not a player, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. Again, this is pure jealousy and pure spite from the other owners. Because the Patriots have made every other franchise in the NFL look really bad since he bought the team in 94. Let's go over the record again. He bought the team in 94, which means, let's see, with my high school math, 04, 14, 20, he's owned the team for 31 years. And in those 31 years, he's been to 10 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks and 3 different coaches. Now, I feel like I'm on Jeopardy. Ding, 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 ding. Name me any other owner that can match that record. And you know what the answer would be? Who is nobody, Alex? Who is nobody? Exactly. And he's not in the Hall of Fame. And just like Bill Belichick, this is payback for Spygate. This is payback for Deflategate. This is payback. Now, let's get into this. Remember the Orchids of Asia thing? Where Belichick was supposedly caught, not Belichick, Bob Kraft was supposedly caught on camera. Before he flew in his private jet to a playoff game, he stopped off at Orchids of Asia in Florida for a supposed blowjob and a hand job from a couple of professionals at the massage parlor, Orchids of Asia. They're probably holding that against him, too. But we talked about Spygate. Now, evidently, somebody was caught on the sideline on the Patriots coaching staff with a camera on Eric Mangini, the coach of the New York Jets, and they were filming him signaling in place, which is against NFL rules. Well, of course it is. Now, not every team actually has people on the sidelines with a camera, but I guarantee you, every one of them have got cameras up in the press box, and they've got spies all over the stadium. They've got people dressed as fans and posing as fans with their iPhones, their iPhone 11s and 12s, whatever the hell it is, directly pointing at the other coaches, and then signaling to the press box or delivering messages about what the signals are, what play is coming in. Again, you have to assume, when you're an NFL head coach, when you're a Major League Baseball manager, you have to assume going into the game that they're going to try and steal your signals. There's going to be cameras all over the ballpark looking at the catcher, looking at the first base coach, looking at the third base coach, looking in the dugout at the manager, what he's signaling in. And then they look for patterns. Oh, look at this. When he taps the inside of his leg, it's a certain pitch or a certain play is on in baseball. When he taps his forehead, whatever. And they get it figured out after a little while. And if you don't understand that that's happening, if you don't realize it, again, it's on you. You've got to change your signals from inning to inning. You've got to change your signals in football from half to half, from game to game. In the National Football League, with the technology the way it is today, if you go into the next week using the same signals you used in the previous week, the opponent's going to know every single damn play that you send in, every formation you have. They're going to know tendencies, both on offense and defense. They're going to be a step ahead of the game. And you can bitch and cry and moan all you want about stealing signals. That's your fault, and it's on you. You have to assume the worst. You have to assume they're stealing signals and then adjust accordingly. So Spygate to me is BS. Who cares? You know what? Everybody's trying to steal signals, and if they're successful, that's on you. And as we said earlier, Deflategate was total nonsense. That has been, after that report came out, they did a scientific study on pressure of the footballs and PSI stuff, and it turned out to be complete nonsense. The numbers that were first reported were not true. It made no difference on the footballs. And again, to me, and it was scientifically debunked, so we shouldn't even be talking about Deflategate anymore, but to me, the evidence lies with your eyeballs. How did Tom Brady play in the second half of that playoff game, I think it was against the Colts, after the balls were detected to be deflated in the first half? They took all the footballs away. They had reinflated him. They brought him back out, and he played maybe the best half of football in his playoff career. It didn't seem to affect him, did it? And then the Super Bowl 2 weeks later, 2 separate 80-yard drives in the fourth quarter led the Patriots to victory, and that, along with Pete Carroll being a dumbass and not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch on the 1-yard line and trying to throw and throwing an interception, that all combined for yet another Patriots Super Bowl victory. So Deflategate, debunked. Spygate, who cares? Now, again, Orchids of Asia. Now, this, I've said many times, while that investigation was going on, Bob Kraft was seen pulling up in his limousine to Orchids of Asia, a place to get a massage, cough, in Florida. And it was pretty well established that once you went in there and laid enough money down on the table, certain body parts would get massaged. Namely, a man's penis would get massaged. via orally or manually. that was the word out of Orchids of Asia. And Bob Kraft was caught coming out of there. And then some of the women in there testified about what they were really doing to Mr. Kraft. And the police, remember they said at the time they were going to release the video. I said on the air at the time, please, if there's a God in heaven, please, if he's guilty, arrest him. But if you release that, can you imagine accidentally coming across that on the internet? An 80-year-old man getting a handy or a mouthy from a young girl at Orchids of Asia? As I said at the time, I would have had to go into the studio every day for the rest of my career with a cane and a pair of sunglasses and a dog walking me in, because I would have gouged out my own eyes after I saw that and never forgotten it. But even if it is true, whatever happened at Orchids of Asia, what does that have to do with his record of being an owner? Does that affect the fact that he's been to 10 Super Bowls now? That so far he's won 6 out of 9. Who knows? I think Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl, but who knows? You never know going in. Maybe the Patriots win. Maybe he gets his 7th Super Bowl out of 10 tries in 31 years, which no owner can ever match. The hiring of Belichick, the hiring of Mike Vrabel, the drafting of Brady, the drafting of Drake May, fitting the right players around them in the organization. All the right players around Brady giving him the best chance to win. Now in New England, the best players around young Drake May giving him the best chance to. They've bounced back in 3 years from Brady and Belichick leaving, and they're in the Super Bowl again. It's funny. Everybody hates the Chiefs, for the same reason they hate Duke basketball and the New York Yankees and the Patriots and the Lakers organization. It's out of jealousy. Teams that win all the time, everybody hates. And people were rejoicing that the Chiefs finally, this year, not in the Super Bowl again. Thank God we're sick of the Chiefs. But even worse news, the Patriots are back. The Patriots were hated worse than the Chiefs. After 6 Super Bowls and 9 appearances, we're finally rid of Brady. We're finally rid of Belichick. And here they are again, 3 years later. The Chiefs and Mahomes are gone, and now you're stuck with the Patriots again. And Drake May is 23 years old, and Vrabel's young. Get used to it. The Patriots are going to be knocking on that Super Bowl door for the next 10 years. If you hated it before, if you hated the Chiefs, well, get used to this, because here come the Patriots again. What do you think about Bob Kraft not making the Hall of Fame? How much of an injustice is that? Is that as bad as Belichick not getting in? And do you agree with me that it's pure jealousy, pure nonsense? It's out of spite and out of hatred of the other owners and the voters for Kraft and Belichick, which I think is that it is. And that Spygate and Deflategate are nonsense, and who cares about Orchids of Asia? If an 80-year-old man wants to get topped off, it's none of my business. But those are the reasons why. All right, that does it for me. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube page at The Dave Smith Unleashed Podcast. And, of course, don't forget to follow me on Twitter or /X or whatever you want to call it. I'll always talk about when the next show is going to be, the time and date, who the guest is going to be. So follow me on Twitter for all that. Follow on the YouTube page at The Dave Smith Unleashed Podcast. And we'll talk to you next time right here on Dave Smith Unleashed.